right? So they're dealing with populations, large populations, and so on. And of course, the television is a huge tool in that regard.
Yeah, and the Zapruder film was the first great vehicle for that, you know. The Zapruder film was the first mass hallucination that was successfully implanted, and I'm still battling against it, you know. It's really
absolutely. Well, what is your familiarity with MJ-12? What used to be called MJ-12?
Well, I would say I'm a little more familiar with the history than most because I've studied it for so long. But basically, I do believe it. I believe that it started right at the end of World War II. That the nucleus of it dealt with having to defeat the Japanese, and that it naturally evolved into dealing with another alien culture. Because you see, Japanese culture was as alien to us as extraterrestrials are to us now. And dealing with the Japanese and the Germans, we discovered how mind control works. And basically, its roots is in Buddhist meditation. The ability to control the mind is rooted in both Shinto and in Tibetan meditative techniques. And from that, the Germans extrapolated and developed more sinister forms of mind control. Because in meditation and in, for example, Buddhist meditation, going to a Zen monastery in Japan, I'm sure you've seen the Zen monks sitting there still, mastering breathing, holding very difficult postures, and a Zen master coming around with an oak staff and whacking somebody across the back, you know, like 3 big hits across the back, and to see that they're inured to pain, you see. And I feel that there's this neo-Buddhism that's spread through the United States now that has kind of numbed people's senses, numbed their sensibilities, and numbed their conscience. And that going with the flow and not making waves and not being upset, don't get disturbed, you know, all of that stuff, it's all part of this neo-Buddhist indoctrination that has occurred. And it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing because basically it's teaching a hive mentality. It's acting like a bug.
Absolutely. And it, you know, it pervades the business, you know, the persona of the American business and so on and so forth. But it's really become rampant also in the so-called New Age movement, as there is a persona that is supposed to be, you know, blissful and happy and, you know.
Right. In the face of everything, you know, my bliss is more important than anybody. Please don't disturb my bliss. But basically, I have a problem with Buddhism in its basic precepts that there is no good and evil, and that there is no truth, and that everything is relative. And I call this a gray morality. You see, nothing's black and white. There is no good and there is no evil. There are only consequences. They say a lot of strange things. I have an issue with the Dalai Lama. You know, I like the Dalai Lama. He's a nice figurehead, but he speaks a lot of nonsense, and nobody challenges his holiness because he's the Dalai Lama, you know? And I think that things like that have to be challenged.
Yeah, I agree with you.
He says things like, I have no mother, I have no father, you know? I am universal mind. I said, you know, I won't say dude, but Dalai Lama, you have no mother, you have no father because you were taken away from them at 5 years old and you don't remember them and you've been told you're a god from the beginning of this indoctrination and you've come to believe this thing. And so I'm sorry, you know, I don't buy that. The idea that there is no good and there is no evil, well, that is patently not true. And when people say, well, what's good and what's evil in your vocabulary? I say, well, if it promotes life and our survival of a human race, then it's good. If it works against life, if it's anti-life or death-oriented, it's evil. That's my simple definition of it. You know,
Right.
yeah, I'm not a lemming. I'm not ready to run off the end of a cliff with thousands of others just to save the rest of the race. No, I don't. I don't buy it. I challenge it. I debate it.
So
and a lot of people don't like me for that.
Can you talk? Well, I'm actually with you on that. I have some problems with some of the basic precepts of Buddhism, although I think a lot of it is very good. But in terms of where I wanted to have you go, because Dulce is a very controversial topic, and I'm wondering if you have done any special investigation in relationship to that, and if you can add anything to that, because it's kind of there are many underground bases, and there's a ton of research being done in those underground bases. Mm-hmm. Dulce is simply one of them. There were some incidents that did happen there. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if you have gotten any insider information about that.
Well, quite a bit. I've been in contact with Branton and several other people, Air Force people, who have had insights. I know a person who's been in the area, not to Dulce, but in Area 51. And it's really, if there is a hell on earth, then I imagine that Dulce is that place. The way it's been engineered and what has gone on there for all these years in the exchange program of tissue engineering material, DNA, fluids, trading human resources for technological resources, or actually tribute. I consider it paying tribute to the Greys, who I believe are the major operators of this harvesting operation. I know the entire saga is told by Thomas Costello, and I think Branton has done the most exemplary work in exposing it. Phil Schneider was a very courageous man in revealing what he knew about these underground sites. Now we get to this situation where I have to reveal to you that I don't believe that they are recent arrivals, that I don't believe that they came from Zeta Reticuli. I think these are all cover stories. They don't really want us to know, meaning the ETs don't really want us to know where they're from. And so they have concocted a message of deception that they utilize to cover up their true origins and their true agenda. But I believe that the Greys have been here from time immemorial, and that they've been operating in the same manner, like leeches, bloodsuckers, and confusing mankind using mind control to deceive the percipient. That's the person who's perceiving. And I have had my own experiences and can tell you that it's really quite something to experience a direct telepathic connection with an extraterrestrial intelligence. That it's staggering, actually. The invasion of one's mind by another mind to rummage through what you know, let me describe it that way, and this has happened to a lot of people who have had encounters. The ET, and if you can read a very good description of this mind scan in Dr. David Jacobs' book, The Threat. He calls it mind scan, so I would like to use his vocabulary. It feels like a magnetic fluid has jumped into your head, and you're aware that it's not you, and you're aware that it's studying what you know, and you feel it pass through your head and your nerves and your muscles, and my reaction was, my God, this creature is reading everything I know, reading everything I believe and everything I've ever experienced in order to come up with a convenient lie to explain himself away.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the convenient